it is coming more and more clear that either they are accepting it or they're about to make a change from Joe Biden. There's no way they can get around it. And I'm going to start here with your tweet here, because this is actually how I first found out about it, Nick. I logged onto Twitter, and just like so many of us, this is where I get a lot of breaking news, and this is where I got it. I log in, first tweet I see is from Nick. Let me make it slightly bigger. And Nick says, new poll shows Trump beating Biden by 10 points. Wow. Just wait until demented Joe is forced to do more events. And that's why I said this is becoming the moment of truth. Like in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because there's a deadline, like if they're going to switch him out, this is the moment of truth. So those who are putting pressure to get him out, because this is what I believe. I believe there's the Democratic establishment, half of them, and donors, half of them want Joe out, half of them want Joe Biden to stay. So they're allowing, these narratives, these stories to go out about Joe Biden. This is another one, because they could have just covered up this poll. And to that point, have you been hearing, because not only is the poll the story, Nick and Rome, but also that they're going to be throwing out this poll. And the reason why it's making news is that's Washington Post, because if this was anybody else, this probably wouldn't even make news, considering the results. Yep. But because it's the Washington Post, they do have to give it some play. And the play is unhinged cope. And I'm just going to show you a couple of, for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of just fly through some of these things here. Here's this one. The Hill, pardon Hunter and drop out. Hunter Biden can spare his party and his family and his image. And I'm showing you this one as another example of, you're just hearing more and more from different outlets. It's time for Joe Biden to go. Whether it's because they're saying this is polling, or whether, and like this story here, they're saying because of Hunter Biden and what's going to come out in the impeachment inquiry, it's time for Joe Biden to go. And that leads me to this video before we get our first sort of reaction. And our first video, this is from ABC. So they could not report on this. You know what I mean? Other outlets are just simply not reporting on this, but this is their poll that they did in conjunction with Washington Post. Where is that clip? I thought it was right here. Hang on one second, everybody. Yeah, I thought it was right here. But this is so they can't go ahead and just skip over it. Oh, so it was this one. So my bad. Here it goes right here. All right, so let's listen to this one. This is ABC News
Political
this week.
Director Rick Klein here with the breakdown to help make sense of this poll and dive into the numbers. And Rick, the economy is clearly at the top of voters' minds.
Yeah, Martha, these numbers are simply staggering for the sitting president. 44% in this poll, they are not as well off as they.
Oh man.
Administration 2.5 years ago. Those are the worst numbers that we've seen in our ABC News Washington Post polling. And it's a question we've been asking going back to the Reagan administration. And when you dive into the big questions around the economy, we know President Biden has been out there trying to make the case. Unemployment is low. He's talking about how.
So now this is the part I want to highlight, CJ. I'm glad that this video showed it, because I was going to show you guys this. Now, there are a lot of interesting things about the poll. I'll explain some more later. I don't want to derail too much. But this is the most devastating part, right? Well, obviously the Trump-Biden poll is bad.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of devastating parts.
Bidenomics is flopping, fam, in historic, massive, once-in-generational fashion. Like, they thought we were going to use the term Bidenomics. We're going to trick people to think the economy is war. You got to understand, 74% say this economy is not so good or poor, fam. And remember, how do we analyze polls? Because we know the bias in polls. I tell you guys, every poll is going to have 25 to 30% unmovables, right? Like there's 25 to 30% of Americans that are against universal health care. There's like 30 to 25% of Americans that are against the minimum wage, right? So there's the 20 to 35 class loyal partisans that are unmovable. They are literally at that limit. They are literally only having support a class loyal Democrat partisan. Whenever you see anything at 25%, that is horrible. Biden approval rating being 30% is horrible because he had the ground floor what you see in polling generally. When you have 74% of people that are against your economy, not only is that massive amount of independents, that not just Republicans, that even Democrats like, nigga. Even Democrats like,
I can't even lie. It's fucked up when your propaganda can't even work against already Democrats.
Yeah,
and that's what this is, Rome. We say this all the time, and I'll get back to the video right here, but this is literally a report card. So this is a 25% of what in school is what? It's an F. So this is their report card, and it's essentially giving them an F for their propaganda, which this is not a usual place. This is new to them, that the lies they say aren't simply just changing people's minds. This is something new. But let's get back. It gets even worse.
But people aren't buying it. You covered some of the reasons why: gas prices, food prices, grocery prices, and the like. Right now, on the big picture on the economy, 74% of the country, that's about 3/4 of Americans, who say the economy is either not so good or downright poor.
And it's not just the state of the nation or the policies that are giving people pause on President Biden. It seems to be the man himself.
Yeah, Martha, let's talk about age, because we know for sure that the country certainly is. President Biden would be 82 years old on Inauguration Day 2025. That's how old he is. He's not getting any younger. And of course, perceptions around his ability to perform in the job are not getting any better. Right now, 3/4 of Americans, 74%, say that he is too old to effectively serve in a second term. That compares to about 50% who say the same around Donald Trump. And it's not just Republicans or independents who are skeptical over Joe Biden. This is a question we asked: should Biden be at the top of the ticket? 62% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents.
Finally.
Finally, at least they got her in a picture. At least they got her in a picture.
They're like, who the fuck we got? Who we got?
That is true. But that's devastating. This is Democrats. Not this, so this is not including any conservative. 62% says they want him gone.
Said they think that someone else should be the presidential nominee, although the party is deeply split on who that someone else should be. Now, if you're looking for a potential good sign, a positive sign for Democrats in this poll, opposition to the Supreme Court's decision on Roe versus Wade overturning abortion rights at the national level remains very.
The poll is so devastating for Joe Biden. In order to balance out, because this is what they do a lot, anytime they have a lot of bad news about Joe Biden, they'll just randomly bring up some bad stuff about Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with the story. They just randomly
been in office for a couple of years.
Yeah, they'll just randomly insert it. Right here. The topic is Joe Biden and how the numbers are terrible for him. But then they have to give people some sort of glimmer of hope, because you know what? People be like, fuck this shit, then I'm out. So they have to give people a glimmer of hope to even stay on this blue bandwagon. And this is their glimmer of hope. Let's listen.
Very, very strong. 64% opposition. Of course, it was Donald Trump's 3 Supreme Court justices who authored that opinion and made it possible.
And of course, abortion played a big role in last year's midterms, but most of these numbers paint a bleak picture for President Biden's reelection chances, Rick.
Yeah, and Martha, maybe the most startling number in our poll is this.
This number.
Hypothetical matchup, a rematch of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Our poll with the Washington Post pegging this at 51% for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. That is a 9-point edge. Now, that's only a couple of points difference from our last poll in May, but it is significantly different than most recent polls. It is.
So we're seeing establishment bow to the people that pay them. We're seeing the establishment workmen, the people that do the poll, bow, because they're literally, if you go read the Washington Post article, they literally are bashing their own poll because they know the results are not going to be received well by the establishment. But if you look at their own polling, this is not off. 48% in one poll. This is only a 3% difference. Going down, that's a 4% difference. So this is not crazy, but what's so fascinating is that it went in the opposite direction, making the final number a larger difference. You get what I'm saying? So it's not as if 3% but it's 3% up. And then it was 4% down for him. So this is what makes it a larger difference. And they're just looking at it like, this is crazy. And then another point, and we're going to see this more when we get to the Morning Joy clip, which is next. What are they talking about? What's make me throw this poll out is that they're saying Trump loses young supporters. Really? Why is that so weird? Why is it so weird that he wins young support when haven't we been talking about where is Joe Biden's support soft? Haven't we been talking about it soft with blacks and young people? So why is it so crazy that if we see black people support go up with Trump, why wouldn't young support go up with Trump in the same way? These are both groups that we're saying would never go to Trump. But have you seen Trump is polling at 20% with blacks? Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't his support with youth go up? So don't just throw it out because of that, because that is ridiculous. And I'll continue, and then unless you any
I'll chime in after the clip is done. I'll climb after the clip.
Okay. Yeah, it's almost done here. Let's go.
Is an outlier compared to other polls we've seen recently. Our partners at 538 put
They're
together
telling
an analysis
on their
for us.
own poll.
An average of recent polls having this more in the 1 or 2 point range.
All polls
with Joe Biden typically having the edge. But whether you believe that or not, look, there's a good chance that there's people just trying to send a message in the polling right now, given the other frustration we've seen. We know in this poll there's some...
They don't mean it. We just try to send a message.
Bro, the cope is unbelievable. The liberals are in absolute shambles right now.
All right, let's let it finish. Man? Go ahead, Roman. If you want to jump in.
Why would they threaten to vote for Trump? That's not some shit that you would just say to me. Like, no, that's some shit that you mean. You know, if a motherfucker tell you they're gonna vote for Trump, they mean that shit. Especially in the poll.
Quirks, some oddities around the number of black voters and Hispanic voters, the younger voters who seem.
You see here, and now here I didn't hear this part. He is bringing it up too. He says it nicely. He said, "Yeah, there is some oddity around black voters and young voters. Oddity meaning these numbers are a lot higher than we've ever seen." That's what they're saying. So let's listen to that.
Some quirks, some oddities around the number of black voters and Hispanic voters, the younger voters who seem to be supporting Donald Trump. And get this, because it's pretty hard to believe, but we asked people whether Donald Trump should be constitutionally disqualified from running for office. And among people who said yes, 1 in 5, about 18%, say they'd vote for Trump anyway. So that might just be sending a message that's more anti-Biden than it is pro-Trump. But regardless, the weaknesses that
you see how nervous he is when he's talking right now. When he's like, my fucking job is on the line right here. I got 3 kids to feed. I got this mortgage. I got a kid in college. I have got to get this shit right here. That he's like, I am delivering news that typically donors never say, and I have to deliver it in a particular way where I am not giving away that this guy cannot come back and win. That's what he has to deliver right here, and he is definitely afraid. You can see he is like touching a card. He is fidgeting and shit. Watch this, and then we can move to the Joe Biden to your comments, and then the Morning Joe clip.
And then it is pro-Trump, but. Regardless, the weaknesses that we are seeing for Joe Biden and his approval rating across the board are very real. They are alarming to Democrats, even if no one thinks this is ultimately going to be a 9-point race.
So let's take it to
let me pause it. It's a damn shame that you hire a pollster, they come back with results, and because you don't like the results, they have to now downplay their poll and look like buffoons.
Yeah, but
what say you two about that clip, and then I'll find the other Morning Joe clip.
Yeah, so the part I have about this is how liberals are in absolute shambles. They're so broken, even though it doesn't even serve them. So I'm gonna ask you guys this question because you guys see we're having a blast. Because isn't it great not to be stressed out by who wins these fucking fraudulent election and glorified popularity contests between people who hold capital? We don't give a fuck who wins, right? But if you have Trump derangement syndrome, if you are a diehard Democrat, if you believe our democracy is on the line, and you believe Trump is an existential threat, wouldn't you take every single poll seriously? if I had Trump random syndrome, if I was liberal and I see this poll, like, nigga, we all gotta get out in phone bank. We need to get out in canvas. We need to do everything we can to defeat Trump. Notice how they are not doing that? It's almost like they really don't give a fuck if Trump wins or not. So the reason why they denied the poll is because it hurts their ego. And as we said before, it harms their credibility as a propagandist. It serves you no good to deny the polls. And I remember telling people this in the Bernie campaign. I remember people in the Bernie campaign, you say stuff like that. They're like, well, these polls are not real, man. They're not polling up young people. I'm like, nigga, we need to treat these polls as if they are real as fuck. You know, the poll showing us losing? We should treat that shit real as fuck and work as if we're losing the polls. This is why I used to say on the Bernie campaign, we should work as if we're down by 20. Why would you want the poll to tell you that you need to relax and chill? Like, nigga, there need to be a sense of urgency. The fact that they are not doing that shows that they really don't care about winning. They don't view Trump as an existential threat as they pretend they do. It's mostly about the report card. And I'll be quick on this because I know you're strong on time, CJ, but it was a short thing I want to add before you get to the Warren Joe segment to back what you were saying up. Look at this. This is from The Guardian. And Guardian just one of many saying this, by the way. I was pulling one for a second time. Poll showing Trump up 10 points over Biden for 2024 election. Criticized.
Yes.
CJ, when have you ever seen these headlines before? When have you ever seen the headline where the entire mass media is like, yo, this poll here is bullshit?
Yep.
Not only is
Never.
ABC Washington Post is literally disavowing their own polling. Guardian and many other corporate, they're literally just one of many guys. They're all saying it's criticized. So once again, my point is, if you're a Democrat and being this guy is the most important thing in the world, why would you underscore the point, the legitimacy of these polls? It doesn't serve you, right? Right? It doesn't make sense, right? But they do that because they don't want that stain on the report card. The fact that they wasn't able to persuade people. And last thing I want to show you before we move on, because this shit is fucking hilarious. The fucking meltdown that liberals had because Washington Post and ABC had the audacity to do a poll, CJ. Liberals are so anti-free press, they are literally threatening to cancel their Washington Post membership because they had this poll that even they disavowed. So this is Mary L. Trump, relative of Donald Trump.
I saw that. I saw that.
So you want to be you want to be lied to. This.
I'm sorry, Rome. I passed.
No,
to you.
I'm just talking too much.
No, I passed to you, Rome. But this is the notorious resist Trump derangement syndrome grifter. Like Mary Trump made a brilliant career move by like being anti-Trump. She sold so many books, was on New York Times bestselling list. Like she is the standard MSNBC watching shit live. Now I'll read this. I'll pass it to Roman and CJ because I know you're strong on time, CJ. But listen to this. I'm feeling sick. Not because of the ABC News poll that shows Donald Trump leading Biden, but because how we got here. The corporate media refuses to do its fucking job. So Mary Trump is not complaining that the media doesn't do their job regarding calling out war and politicians are lying. She's complaining because the media has the audacity of giving Donald Trump, a leading candidate, airtime and having a poll. As we head into 2024, have they learned anything? No, they absolutely have not. And then she complained, remember, CJ, she lists Kristen Welker. So she having a meltdown.
Yeah.
Kristen Welker interviewed
That interview.
So according to Mary Trump, you're not allowed to interview the leading presidential candidate ever. Anyway,
that is literally, and I'll bring it up. That's literally one of the critiques of that Nika Brzezinski says. Now, I don't know which segment you saw. There's two segments they did on this poll in the beginning. So I'm going to cut for the sake of time. I got to pick one. So I'm going to pick the one that Al Sharpton appears in because I just think it's funny. I just think it's a funnier part of the segment. I agree. I know what you're talking about. Let's go with that one. Let's play it. I'm going to play 2 minutes just all the way through so we can get through some of this content and then we'll comment.
I mean, my take on this is Democrats need to get behind Joe Biden because he has performed well for them. And so around here, haven't seen anyone else who has beaten Donald Trump. So unless you want to be that Democrat that jumps in and then risks losing to Trump, good luck to you. But I'd say get behind him because this doesn't help within the administration.
Wait, look at their faces. Look at their faces. Then I'll let it play. Look at their faces. I should have said this in the preface. Look at their faces.
Yeah,
this is doom. They are devastated by this poll. They are devastated, and they have to have a look of concern. But let's get back to the clip. Let me let it play all the way through, then we'll comment.
Administration, there is a takeaway from these polls. There's a big takeaway. Focus his schedule and make sure everything he does means something. This man works harder than Donald Trump ever has in a day in his life. So it's not like there's even a comparison. But let's make sure every appearance he has means something. And Reverend Al, they seem to be doing that in the decision to go to Detroit, I believe tomorrow.
They are going to Detroit tomorrow, first sitting president to join a picket line. And I think that is the step in the right direction of showing the contrast between Donald Trump and you. I also think that they need to take the age question on head on. He should say, President Biden should say, that Trump is only 3 years younger than me. So what are we talking about? Who sounds like they're old and out of it? Somebody
who sounds like it, Rev, that is Joe Biden, and everybody knows. Let's take 30 seconds just to comment on here. Clearly, the word age is being used to talk about the entire mental state that people are seeing of Joe Biden. It's not just a number, Al Sharpton, that you're trying to pretend like it is. It is people see. That's why it's such a difference in the polling, even though they're 3 years apart. Go ahead if either one of you wanted to quickly chime in here.
And I like how they just keep on ignoring the people that keep saying, like, look, 63% of other Democrats want somebody else to run, but they like get behind Joe Biden, push these people to like Joe Biden. You cannot do it. There's no more gaslighting that you can do. People are feeling it. You know what I'm saying? People are feeling it. And no matter how much positive messaging that Ms. Trump or whoever the fuck these fuck faces names are want mainstream media to do, I think, because they got to go to their third job now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they got to continue to pay their the student loan debt. Like, come on now, there's no more gaslighting. And if they want to go down this road, then they're going to give us Trump. And I like how what was that tweet? She was like, "Oh, well, they're not doing their job, giving Trump airtime." I like what you said, Nick, but let's be real. Without Trump, these fucking these networks down there about to go bankrupt. Right. They got to merge in together and whatnot. Their ratings are so fucking low. They're damn near competing with indie podcasts nowadays. So
yeah,
they are doing their job. They're trying to make their motherfucking money.
I'm sorry, y'all. Calling for the execution of General Milley or someone that is trying to deal with these issues. And I might remind people, in the Democratic primaries in 2020, the youth candidate was Bernie Sanders, who's 2 years older than Joe Biden. I didn't hear anyone asking Bernie Sanders about his age while young progressives was rallying around him. Take the issue head on.
They did. They did bring that up. I don't know why you're saying that.
At the table, and then
when you have to put this stem in his chest, do you remember how much propaganda we had to come up for fucking Bernie Sanders, Nick? Do you remember that shit?
Man. Yeah, that's the main thing they attacked him on. Now they pretend that age is just another number. But you gotta see how the shit, that, like CJ said, they try to make it about age instead of mental acuity. So like with all the criticisms I have of Bernie Sanders, that motherfucker is sharp as fuck. Like I think this, like he sounds like he's like in his early 60s at best. Yeah. Meanwhile, Joe Biden can't even do press conferences because he's scared he's gonna be exposed. Like even if he forgot to shake Lula's hand, and during that press conference, Lula would look at this motherfucker like, this motherfucker's okay. Lula like, this motherfucker's awake, bro. But anyway, let's continue. I know you're short time. Let's
to the record that you set. Compare the economy under me would compare it under Trump. Unemployment was almost double. I think you can win that debate if you have the right debate.
And Charlie mentioned Mark Milley. Here's what Donald Trump said about Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley.
I'm going to skip over this Mark Milley part and go to the next part they talk about right here. So right here, when they get to this lady, here's another interesting point she makes.
America is supporting a guy who says this about wounded warriors, who says he wants to terminate the Constitution,
cruel, sick, and corrupt,
who says the chairman of the Joint Chiefs should have been executed for telling China we're not going to attack them, to just not worry about it, that steals nuclear secrets, that steals war plans for invasions of Iran, who a judge in New York State says that he raped a woman. You can go on and on and on. This is what we're dealing with, though. And I will say, for those Democrats who are concerned about political strategy, when you're running against that,
focus on that.
I'm not sure you should be talking so much about GDP growth rates and let nerds like me do that. I'm not so sure you should be talking about trying to convince people how well the economy's doing in their lives when they're not buying that, but instead talk about what you're running against. And I think, again, that's what I'm hearing from Democrats in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, the White House
that is a losing strategy.
Super careful about not wanting Joe Biden to talk about the legal cases, the president talk about those legal cases, and that's understandable. He's trying to make a distinction between the previous administration, his own administration, and give Merrick Garland all the autonomy that the DOJ is rightly due. But there's plenty of material there, and actually, when you look at these polls, there's also plenty of wiggle room, it seems, within still the Republican Party. There are 35% of Republicans who are diehard Trump supporters, but that's a lot left who are prepared to take a second look at another candidate, or would seem to be prepared to take a second look at another candidate for all of those kinds of reasons. We've all had the conversations with people in the Pentagon, in the military, who were dismayed when the first reports came out about the kinds of things that Donald Trump said to John Kelly, about his son who had died, and why do people give their lives? I just don't understand it. Or what he said about John McCain being taken prisoner of war. Now, for the diehards of Trump supporters, that makes no difference. They still love him anyway. But there are those Republicans who are prepared to look somewhere else. It's just this primary season doesn't seem to have produced a viable yet alternative candidate to Donald Trump. So we're looking again at that Trump-Biden matchup, which polls suggest many Americans feel discouraged by. On the economy, I think you're right. I mean, the bigger threat I would have thought to Joe Biden at the moment is not so much the age question, but the Federal Reserve saying they're going to keep interest rates high for the next 2 years, potentially the auto workers strike. There are economic clouds on the horizons that could be damaging to the president, and I think he's got to be careful to tie himself just to the message of Bidenomics.
Exactly.
What do you guys think? Like, do you think that? Do you think, like, what do you think is the reason everybody has come together to form this Voltron against Donald Trump? Like, what is it? Just a racist being the face of the deep state and imperialism? Like, because this to me seems to be over the top, sort of like we don't want him to run. But go ahead. I still got like 10 minutes, so we got like
I want Ron to chime in. I just want to answer that question
real
quick. Because people keep pretending that Trump is a unique threat, but people they said the same thing about George W. Bush, fam. They said the same thing about Mitt Romney. I remember I was laughing at myself because the last time I ever voted for the lesser two evils was 2012, and I'm like, I'm never ever gonna do that shit again. Because I voted for Obama despite having criticism. I didn't like Obama at that time, but I fell for the lesser two evilism when I was a young 19-year-old, 20-year-old around that time. I was young, dumb, young adult. I fell for lesser two evilism, and I learned from my mistake, and I didn't fall for it in 2016, which led me to vote for Joe Stein. But I remember when they said Ronnie was a monster. Remember George W. Bush? They always do this. And remember what Bernie Sanders said. And I told you guys, Bernie Sanders is a unhinged vote blue no matter who lunatic. Because he said we need to organize around Biden, whether Trump or whoever the Republican candidate. Remember Bernie Sanders said that, CJ? He said no matter who the candidate is, we got to vote for Joe Biden. So when Donald Trump retires, the next person they're going to fearmonger about is going to be Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz, Ron DeSantis,
Tom Cotton, yeah.
It's never ending, fam. It's never ending. But sorry, I won't run to chime in. I just want to make that point. It's not just Trump. It's going to be whoever that's against the Democrats.
I'm just glad. I'm just glad that he backed me up when I said there's no more gaslighting people on the economy. they already feeling the butt of it. But to even sit here and be like, oh, well, Trump is a monster. Trump did this. Trump did that. That's not gonna win over the voters. They don't care about that. They are poor. You know what I'm saying? We're tired and sick and up to their neck in medical debt or whatever the fuck debt that was thrown at us. So I don't see Trump winning by a landslide. No, it's going to be a tight race. It's going to be a tight race, but he's going to lose only because the propaganda it doesn't work, because the people just feeling the real butt of everything. And not only when this Hunter Biden shit come out, it's gonna fuck up a lot of shit, but a lot of things are gonna be exposed from what I wonder. I don't think we're gonna get a Democratic debate. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
We're gonna get a presidential debate this year. I don't think so, because they're gonna try to hide. They're gonna try to hide Joe Biden for what Trump is gonna say about Hunter Biden, Ukraine, how he was.
They already planted seeds. Like, I seen a headline. It wasn't worth reporting on, but I saw the headline before where they're like, should we debate someone who have all these felonies, who are notorious liar like Donald?
Yeah, they're already bringing it up.
I already seen people like planting the seeds, and it's going to increase as the general election get closer. But go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, this is what all this got me thinking about. They're going to try to hide Joe Biden, because when the truth come out, the people are going to be even more pissed off. Like on a world stage, not on some back and forth Twitter bullshit where they can't block us. When you have the leaders of the free world, or the potential leader of the free world, talking and debating amongst one another, dude, it's gonna, and we're gonna see the decline that Joe Biden had from 4 years ago. And we're gonna see that those 3 years that they keep talking about, his age, you only 3 years, like 3 years is a lot on an 80-year-old man.
A lot, especially depending on, that's a lot. You can literally go from like being able to walk to being confined to it. I've seen it in my own family.
That they don't tell us that these men are diagnosed with. We're not getting a full health report card on nobody that's top secret like the fucking president. You know, they're gonna tell us this and that, but then they're gonna tell us the full truth of what's going on. Joe Biden might fuck around and have MS and dementia. We don't fucking know.
Yeah, we don't know. But let me play this last. Let me play this last 90 seconds, and then we can start to wind down here. Let me play this last 90 seconds with this guy and listen to what he says here.
To support somebody that is calling for the termination of the Constitution, stealing nuclear secrets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You couldn't be more right. You know, in the end, a year from now, what's going to be important about this election, whatever happens, is if it's Biden versus Trump, you're going to have one candidate who loves democracy, who's been an effective leader in all sorts of ways for more than half a century. That's Joe Biden. On the other side, you're going to have Donald Trump, who, this is not a hidden plan. He has told us if he is elected, he's going to institute a presidential dictatorship. He's going to suspend the rule of law by ending an independent Department
He sounds
of Justice.
sane.
He's going to suspend a military under civilian control and with professional soldiers by saying.
So the liberals are shocked about why the polls are the way they are, but they don't understand how absolutely batshit unhinged they sound to literally anyone else who's not a subscriber to New York Times and MSNBC. Unless you're in his small code, this guy sounds insane. But anyway, let's continue. I want to be sure.
Yeah, he's about to finish in a few seconds. He's going to finish in a few seconds here.
He's going to have not a Mark Milley, but someone in the Defense Department and someone as Secretary of Defense who will follow his orders. If it's Biden versus Trump, this is going to be a choice between democracy or dictatorship. And if people vote in this election on any other basis, they're going to be making an extremely dangerous mistake.
If you vote on any other basis, that's why I just needed to get that part. If you vote on any other basis except for democracy and dictatorship, then you have a problem. Now, you can look at it and say that's the same choice we give, but the problem is dictatorship of the proletariat, maybe we would want, but the dictatorship of capital is either party for us. Now, that's my final words, gentlemen. I'm going to pass to you for super chats, Nick and Rome, for your final comments. But I do gotta hop out of here and get out of here. But thanks for joining, Rome. I'm out.
Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. We wrap up here.
Dude, how is that even possible? Donald Trump don't even have that fucking power or pull. And we have branches of governments that have to go through. These people are talking out of their ass. And it's so crazy how Americans believe this. So how some Americans really believe, oh, if Donald Trump get elected, he's gonna just take over forever. Who's gonna fucking let him? If the government let him, that's not it. Whatever. I'm done with that bullshit. I'm not gonna let these people dumb me down.